Welcome, everybody, to the Old Gold Show. With you, as always, I'm co-manager over at Hammer and Rails, Andrew Ledman.
And I'm Casey. It's a little early, Bartley at Boiler Upload Rivals.
That's what everybody calls him. Casey, it's a little early, Bartley. It's a long story. You probably wouldn't understand it. It'd take up the whole podcast. We don't have time.
It actually starts at night, which is weird.
Yeah, it is a weird way for that story to start. But, as I said, it's one of those, we got to get into it and we got to go the whole way. And it's just a little too much at this point. So we're just going to let it go.
Yeah, there's not enough space on the internet.
Yeah, which is saying a lot because the internet, nothing but space.
Vast. So, I've heard it described as vast.
Yeah, it's just a series of tubes. Who knows?
No, that's vascular.
Oh, right. Yes. Yes. So Casey is back from Madison, where he traveled up to watch Purdue take on Wisconsin, number 6 ranked Wisconsin, who was at the time just below Purdue in the Big Ten standings, only down by half a game. Purdue goes up with a 75-69 victory, and now they're a game and a half up in the standings. So we're going to talk about the game in the second half of the podcast. I'm going to start out, though, looking at those Big Ten standings. Right now, Purdue first place 10-2. Illinois and Wisconsin are next in line, both at 8-3. Below them, there's Northwestern and Michigan State. So that right now is your top 5, with Nebraska being at 6-6, just below them. So Casey, I wanted to ask you 2 questions. So I'll start with just the first. With Purdue having this victory over Wisconsin and already beating Illinois earlier in the season, is Purdue in the driver's seat for the Big Ten title?
Yeah. So first it's weird when you play a team with already, like, they're ranked high, but they already lost that week. You're hanging out with someone who just announced their divorce, but they're not single yet. Like, I don't know how quite to handle this. The kids are around. Do we mention it? Or do we just pretend like, no, yeah, you're still the 6th seed. You're still number 6 in the country, Wisconsin. It's fine. But yeah, Purdue was, honestly, they were in the driver's seat as soon as Wisconsin lost their second game.
To Nebraska. Yeah.
To Nebraska. Thanks, Nebraska. Good work out there, Nebraska.
Knocking
off Purdue and Wisconsin.
Couldn't help us yesterday. Took Illinois to overtime, but just couldn't hang on the end. That would have been extra nice. I would have been a Nebraska basketball fan for the rest of the season.
You would have been corn husked in
exactly. Nope. Scratch that last part. Yeah.
We'll workshop. Purdue, especially, Purdue is just so far and away the best team in the Big Ten. I mean, if you want to make broad picture in the landscape of college basketball, there's UConn, Purdue, and then there's a step down to even the elite teams in every other conference. You have to go way far down, in my belief, to even get to another Big Ten team. So I think they were always just by talent and how good they are in the driver's seat. But now, obviously, Purdue has the Illinois game on the road. Besides that,
right,
every other like scheduled game, it would be a shock if Purdue loses.
Yeah.
You play the math and, like, sure, you could talk yourself into expecting to lose one more with this much of the season left. But if you're just looking at each game on its own, it would be shocking, even those road games. And then Wisconsin has to come back into Mackey.
Right.
And we'll get more into the actual specifics. But if this Wisconsin team beats Purdue at home, I would eat a shoe.
I would like to... First, I would love to see you eat a shoe, but I don't want them to lose to Wisconsin, so I'm really conflicted right there.
Fair.
But for those that don't know Purdue's schedule offhand, their next games are home against IU, home Minnesota. They go on the road to Ohio State, who just looks abysmal. Rutgers comes into Mackey. They go to Michigan, again, another terrible basketball team. They play Michigan State at home.
I'll eat the other shoe if they lose to Michigan.
Yeah. I mean, I might eat a shoe there too. They go to Illinois, which is the road game that really the only road game remaining that I think anybody believes is a real challenge. And then they end the season versus Wisconsin at home. So those last 2 games are going to have a huge impact on the standings. But is there any reason Purdue should not win those next 6 games?
There's not a logical one. There's
Yeah,
one you
yeah. I
can say
mean,
that weird crap happens, but no,
yeah,
it should not. Wisconsin and Illinois have to play each other again as well.
right.
So one of them will pick up one. I think that's how basketball works.
Yes, yeah.
One
There
of
are no
them will
ties.
have to pick up a loss. Um, Illinois goes into Michigan State on Saturday. It's not it's not what it used to be, but in
Right.
theory, that's a tough game.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, there is more concern with every other team in the Big Ten, schedule wise, everything else than uh what Purdue has on. So this is it always was, it always will be, and it certainly is right now. This is Purdue's conference to lose.
Yeah, I feel much more confident after this last week than I did, prior to, just because Purdue had found a way to lose two games that, I mean, the Nebraska game, you can give that one to Nebraska. They played out of their minds. They shot incredibly. Nebraska won that game versus the game against Northwestern at Northwestern. I really thought Purdue did enough to basically give that game away. They found a way to lose in that one. So that one was frustrating. And you're just looking at Wisconsin continuing to pile up these wins. And Purdue of course, gets to play them twice. And we're going to talk about the first game in the second half of the podcast, but no one was able to find a way to beat Wisconsin. So it's not that I didn't think Purdue could do enough to win the conference. It's just if they had a slip up against Wisconsin on the road, it made it really tough if no one else could handle Wisconsin for Purdue. But now that they've lost to Nebraska and then Purdue beat them yesterday, it makes everything a lot easier for them going forward.
Yeah. Wisconsin's got to go to Rutgers still, has to go to Iowa, has to go to Indiana. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, IU is such a question mark because they'll play a game where they almost beat Kansas at Assembly Hall, and then Purdue will go in there and just absolutely dominate them for 40 minutes.
I mean, they're ravaged by injuries right now, but yeah, that's not a good basketball team.
I don't know about ravaged by injuries. Let's not.
Wasn't
I
Khalil
mean,
Ware and Xavier Johnson both out?
yeah, but I mean,
That's two of five starters on a four-person team.
But as of late, how helpful has Xavier Johnson really been?
I'm just saying,
he's good for one flagrant a game, and then he goes to the bench and throws a basketball at somebody.
Yeah, I get it, but like they couldn't afford to lose more pieces.
Yeah, I mean I'll grant you that, but
yeah, it's Purdue's conference. They are up top now. I think it was inevitable that the teams around them would lose a little more, and Purdue doesn't look like a team all that interested in just coasting into the end of the season.
No. So the second question I was going to ask you about the Big Ten standings is looking at where we are, from top Purdue all the way to the bottom at Michigan.
Ugh.
Which team is the biggest surprise for you? It can be a good surprise, it can be a bad surprise, but which one stands out when you see their position in the standings and you go, really?
Well, it helps that I have thought from the beginning of the season that the Big Ten was garbage.
True. You've been very consistent on that.
Because when you look at the conference record, it's a pile of garbage. It's just a bunch of not good teams. I think you have to say Nebraska just because their ceiling seems so high game to game. And I think that's a little surprising. Like they have shown that they can beat anyone in the conference. Ohio State at the other end, I thought there would be more. I thought Maryland would be decent this year.
Yeah.
But how much of that was just like suffering from that beatdown that we both got to witness last year at Maryland. That team was really good. Turns out, I guess you lose enough pieces around the wing and they just lack ball skill is what it seems like.
They just can't shoot.
Yeah. So those definitely stand up there. Everyone else, I mean, no. We got to give Minnesota some due here because they're 5-5. I think I ridiculed Joe Jackson on Twitter for thinking I don't think Minnesota will be at the bottom of the Big Ten. I'm like, in what universe? The one we're living. It's a dark place. They're 5-5 in the conference. That team last year was not a like barely a D1 program. So
Yeah.
to see them and like their overall record's not great for, well, 14-7, not bad, but like to be 500 at this stage, um, they had a rough little stretch there where they lost 4 in a row, but around that, a Maryland win, a Penn State win, they beat Northwestern at home in
Yeah.
overtime.
That
Like
was surprising.
it's a better win than I thought they would get all year. So their schedule gets tougher. They get Michigan State, they get Purdue, Illinois, but their schedule, they kind of avoided the worst of the Big Ten when it comes to who you would want to play a bunch. So they're going to finish the season taking on, they still have a game with the Rutgers, Penn State, Indiana. Um, like they might be close to 500 in the conference when this is all said and done. And they're in, they're a top 60 defensive team, top 100 offense. When you look at what they were last year, that's shocking. They were 235th in the offense,
Ooh.
188th defense. And I'm looking at Ken Palm. This is a salmon team, buddy. It's all
Oof.
salmon. It was just loss, loss, loss. They were 9-22 last year.
Yeah. They
So
were very bad.
to already be 5 wins ahead, I think like good job by Coach Ben Johnson. Good job by that program just to turn it around. And um, it's a quality-ish team now. And that's,
Yeah.
I did not think they were capable of getting to that.
No, not at all. To me, one that stands out is Michigan. I mean, how is Michigan at the very bottom of this conference?
I
Because like we saw cracks last year, like
that's the thing. Like, who would have thought this pool made of glass with these giant lines in it? I can't believe I just came home and there's a puddle on the ground. What happened?
I mean, I think a big part of it is you do lose Hunter Dickinson, who was, their best
Mm.
player, and now he's over there in Kansas, but it's just amazing how far they've fallen and how fast. Um, God only knows what's going on with Juwan Howard and their coaching staff and everything else. All the behind the scenes drama surely is not helping them. But man, to see them at the bottom of the standings, 2-9 in conference play, 7-15 overall. I mean, I couldn't have predicted that. I
7
figured
and
even,
15, they are 1-10 in their last 11 games.
oh boy.
It's not getting better.
Well, I guess they decided we can either be good in football or we can be good in basketball. And so they put all their chips into football, won the national title. For now, we'll see if that comes back on them. And now they're more abound in basketball, so nowhere to go on
I
that
do
one.
have a theory that you can't be great at both.
It does seem that way. I mean, there's not very many teams
I just think
that are
college
good at
sports is
both.
so hard as is. And if you're a program and you're not the priority and passion of your fan base, the focus of your athletic department, I just don't know how you could be that good and lucky at both at the same time. There's
Yeah,
been a
because
couple schools, like obviously Ohio State's
good at the
probably been
same
the
time.
closest to
Yeah.
national title in both. Alabama had a couple years where their basketball team got real hot. But yeah, just long-term sustainability. I don't know how you could do both really. Um,
Yeah, you got to
and
have so much money. I mean,
yeah,
you're talking like Oregon levels of money of a guy that just willing to shovel money in and be patient for results. And even then in Oregon, they've had good years, of course, but not winning national titles and getting to Final Fours at the same time. It's tough.
yeah, because I don't know if it even breaks down to just money. Because like there's a passion to college sports that uh, part of why Purdue I think is so high right now and what attracts a lot of the recruits I talk to is how much just like basketball in that environment matters.
Yeah.
And I it's hard to have a fan base that has both for because that's like a full year long commitment if you're going to be crazy for football and basketball at all
Yeah.
times. And it
Yeah.
really seems like Ohio State, I've not been to a football game there. I'm sure the atmosphere is awesome. It's like the worst environment in college basketball. There's no life, no one cares.
Yeah.
Which is the one thing why I don't hate Nebraska as much as I did, because I thought they were a joke that they were in the Big Ten and they've been awful. But like in those basketball games, like it actually transfers over. You can tell those are sports fans and they know how to like inflict themselves on a game. and it
Right.
actually transfers to basketball. So I give them a lot of respect for that. And they're great facilities because they have football money.
Yeah.
Ohio State, whatever those football fans are, they don't transfer. They don't come over to the games at all. It's so weird. Same thing with Michigan. I mean, they fill out a 110,000
Yeah.
person stadium, but like when I was up there last year for the Ann Arbor game, there's like 12 people, and that
Yeah.
team was decent.
Right. They were a lot better last year. So I don't imagine it's going to be a raucous atmosphere when Purdue travels
Mhm.
there later this season. So that's I mean, that's where we are in the Big Ten
I'm
standings
sure IU basketball fans, I'm sure they fill up the football stadium though, right?
every week.
Okay.
Every week. That's
Rather.
why you can see they always have those great stadium pictures where
Mhm.
everything's full and red and white. And I'm sure it has
Oh, okay.
nothing to do with them playing Ohio State or Nebraska,
Gotcha.
or Wisconsin.
Do you think back in the Big Ten when they were first expanding, I use like what teams could we possibly get in here? Missouri? No.
No, it doesn't match.
No.
We need we need some teams that are red and can come over and fill our stadium.
Rutgers and Nebraska, love
Yes,
them.
love
Love them.
those
They're
two.
awesome.
Yeah, great choices. That's our vote. So, see, there's a little behind the scenes on Big Ten expansion. You didn't think you were going to get that
Mhm.
today, but here you are. So, we're going to take a break, come back, and look at Purdue's victory on the road against Wisconsin.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 each and every week of the college basketball season. We have a special offer that will be available starting on Tuesday, January 9th, and running through Monday, February 12th, the morning after Super Bowl 58. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, in honor of the big game, you can use the bonus code FIELD158 and you'll get $158 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not you win that first bet. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD158. Deposit at least $5 and place your first wager on any game. You'll receive $158 in bonus bets, regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD158 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly, which happens quite a bit. When you cross state borders, you just log into your existing account and fire away. You don't have to create separate accounts in each state. It's easy, it's simple, it's clean. And most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the heart of the college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odd boosts, and my favorite, a nice juicy parlay boost. So download the BetMGM app and sign up today.
And we're back. So, as promised, Purdue went up to Madison, Wisconsin. Casey followed along with them, I imagine, just right behind the bus.
What a lovely town, Madison. Never gonna spend
Yeah.
enough time there. It's a lovely place. Just
Did you do anything
no.
enjoyable while you were there?
No,
Not even like a nice snack on the road?
No, because like after the game, you just want to get back and you leave Madison real quick. Like you get on the highway and like 14 minutes later, I'm in the middle of nowhere. Like
Yeah.
it's one of those where I get off and exit because I need to fill up on gas and there's nothing else there. It's just the one gas station. And it was like, oh, that happened quick.
You're like, I guess I'm gone now.
Turns out if I went two exits further, there's like civilization, but
Sometimes you just don't know. You just have to take the
I'm
gas
so
where you
bad
can
at
get it.
picking exits. I don't know what it is about me. I don't know if it's like karma every time, but I just pick the wrong one every time. Every time.
Just don't go with the ones where you hear banjos. You don't want to go the deliverance exit. You want to stay away from those.
That's
That was
fair.
the worst banjo I've ever heard. That sounded kind of like a trumpet. So Purdue comes back from Madison. I assume they got a nice meal, but they come away victors 75-69 against the Wisconsin Badgers. The Badgers' second loss of the week. So when the new rankings come out later today, I would imagine they're going to be plummeting down to the mid 15, 17 number. But Purdue probably going to hold steady at number 2 because they came away with 2 victories this week. Casey, what was it about this Purdue game, this Purdue team that was able to, go into Madison, a tough environment, and come out with a victory?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that I get the feeling this game looked uglier on both ends then maybe like I went out of it like Purdue won with their C game
Yeah.
in
Yeah, I don't think
Madison,
Purdue played their best game at all.
and Wisconsin had about their D game. Maybe there's now it was their it was probably a B- game for them
I
because
was gonna say
Tyler Wall
I'd
was
grade
really
them a little
good.
higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but it's two teams that really out execute other teams. So when those two things kind of clash together, I think it kind of like oscillates between looking really good, like Wisconsin would get a wide open pick and roll after doing a bunch of action and the roll would
Yeah.
hit. And then they would have like 3 possessions where it looked like, oh, they're never going to get a good look. And kind of similar, Purdue got good looks. They're always going to get good looks because they have Zach Edey, but like there was a little bit of that too, where like you could tell both teams like are comfortable in the half court, comfortable executing. They can blow some things up. They did a good job of not giving Zach Edey like easy looks inside.
Yeah. Yeah. He had some tough offensive game, really. I mean, only went into halftime with 5 points. Of course, he is Zach Edey. He is the National Player of the Year. So he wound up,
Right.
taking care
A
of that
bad
and wound
18
up,
and 12.
yeah, 18 and 13.
Sorry.
13, with 2 assists as well, 3 blocks. So overall, a pretty good game for anybody else. But for Zach Edey, we look at it and we're kind of like, 7 of 13. Struggled again at the free throw line, only going 4 for 8. So it's amazing that we look at that as just a pedestrian game.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at one reason why Purdue definitely won that game, it's that AJ Storr went, what was it, 3 for 14, I believe.
4 for 15.
4 for 15.
Yeah.
And that's a
for
credit
4 from deep.
Yeah, that's so AJ Storr's not a great 3-point shooter. That's where you want him to try to do his damage. And I was talking to Drew Ham about your notes. Good Twitter follow if you're interested in Philly and/or Wisconsin sports at all. Funny guy, but he was talking to me about Storr's shot selection, and I believe he called it an adventure, and that's fair. Like Jones definitely frustrated him. It's amazing to see how good Lance Jones can be against bigger wings because like Storr is a legitimate 6'7", a matchup nightmare for most teams. And Jones is just so strong and quick and in you. And I thought it was one of his better defensive performances. Buoyed by Zach Edey's just how many times in that game, Lebin, did it appear that a Wisconsin player was playing basketball, doing things they're used to doing, dribbling, going, try to get to the hoop, the normal thing. And then about one step into the paint, you could see the realization. They're like, this is where Zach Edey lives. Hold on. Let me come back. Let me come back.
During that whole buildup, I was not sure where you were going that whole time. You're like, how often did it look like they were playing basketball? I was like, I don't know, like 40 minutes.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, you could kind of see the hesitation as they're like, oh, 7'4" guy, let me go the other way. Or, sometimes they did test him and he got 3 big blocks in this game. Of course, he did get worked around and put on some roller skates a couple times down there. But was it Wall who was doing that to him? I mean, he looked good.
3 pivot Wall. Very, very good player.
Yeah.
So there was a play with Klesman, I think, where he got by his guy, got to the corner, just looked at Edey, kind of like 2 dogs that get loose, and then all of a sudden realize they're loose with each other. And it was like
nope.
And he goes, he just threw the ball up. And it was like, oh, okay.
I guess that's what we're doing.
Yeah, but Tyler Wall was really good, and he really kept Wisconsin in that game. There was offensive rebound putbacks, that wild 3 that he hit.
Yeah.
That he missed. Wild, just one of the worst 3-point shots you'll ever see. But to get his own rebound and then finish, that's why it seemed a lot harder for Wisconsin than it was for Purdue. And Purdue was just missing good looks. But there's not many teams that would have just one thing working and would reliably go to it. And that's credit on Wisconsin. That's something Purdue does well. Like Tyler Wall is 10 of 15 that game. So
10
if
of
he
16.
has even a mediocre game inside or doesn't like he hit some fall away hooks over Edie that you're like, okay.
Yeah, we're tough.
The other half were layups where he just got it. It would be nice if Edie. There were a couple times where he got up in the air and you're just thinking, Wall is 6'9" and he plays hunched over. Maybe don't. Maybe just hold that 9-foot wingspan.
It is a little strange at times when you see Edie go for a pump fake or go, and leave his feet. You're like if you just put your arms up, you're gonna be where they're gonna be anyway. But there's just that natural instinct, as a basketball player. You're like, oh, I gotta, I jump, I can block it or whatever. But it was kind of funny to see that every now and then. But
so we're this far into the game talking. We haven't mentioned it. Zach Edey was the first highest scorer, obviously, for Purdue.
No.
Second highest? It's the second highest.
No, he was the third leading scorer
highest
for Purdue. Yeah.
So Purdue lost.
No, Purdue won.
But they were on the road against the top 10 team. Purdue sucks besides Zach Edey.
So I've heard, and also Zach Edey is only tall and is not actually good at basketball. So, Lance Jones led the team with 20, Braden Smith second with 19. So, just a really great performance by the two guards for Purdue, right there. And I mean, Fletcher Lawyer had a pretty good game as well.
Fletcher was awesome. 12. Fletcher was awesome. Go back to Fletcher real quick, but first Lance. There's just easy buttons that he can push on the court that no one else could last year for Purdue besides Edey. Like there was a possession where things weren't going great, and then the ball just went to the wing, and Jones just blew by Storr and got a wide open layup.
Yeah,
that wasn't on this team last year. Everything looked so hard all the time. I think if the frustration exists in Purdue fans from last year of watching those games in the moment, it's just, why is this so hard for Purdue?
Yeah.
Like they're playing Fairleigh Dickinson and you're like, why is this so difficult at all times? Offense does not look hard for this team right now.
No.
They missed some shots against Wisconsin. It didn't look difficult. There were a couple times where it clogged up, and that's where I want to talk about Fletcher Lawyer, because the timing of his buckets and the way he's able to just kind of break apart any like log jam. Like they're attacking Edey, they're closing out the paint, and it kicks out the Lawyer in 4 or 5 times. He didn't settle for a jumper. He got to the hoop. Not the most athletic guy. We always hear blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But he's got a bevy of floaters he uses. He got to the rim. He got to the line. 7 free throws. One less than
and made 6 of them.
Yeah.
It was surprising. It was surprising when you look at Lawyer, and I don't even know if I realized this until looking at the box score after the game. He played a good game, as you said. He was able to take his dribble, get to the hoop. Didn't take a single 3 in this game.
Mm-mm.
Didn't even attempt a 3-pointer. Only 3 Purdue players even shot a 3 in this game. Purdue was 3 of 11, which you don't love, but only 3 different guys took a 3-point attempt in this game. Braden Smith was 0 for 1. Lance Jones, 3 of 7. Mason Gillis, 0 for 3.
Yeah, the worst stretch for Purdue was there was like this 2-minute stretch where Lance Jones and Mason Gillis lost their absolute minds and got their 3s blocked. When's the last time you saw 2 Purdue players get their 3s blocked?
It's been a while.
The Gillis one was really shocking. Lance Jones, it was an offensive rebound, and it just looked like he got excited and didn't see the guy. But yeah, don't get your shot blocked. Not from the perimeter. It's not a good look.
It's not no.
We don't want it.
There was one moment with Lance Jones that I think I keep going back to in my head, because it's something that we've talked about and why I've always said that he is so important. It's where he's trying to take the ball down the court, and he kind of gets a little bit
Is it the shimmy shake
from him. Yes.
Is it the shimmy shake?
He's got like 2
He hit him
2
with
or
it.
maybe 3 Wisconsin guys coming at him, and he just, as you said, just shimmy shake, gets through them and gets through and safely takes the ball across the half court line. And there was only one player who could do that for Purdue last year, and that was Braden Smith. And I'm not sure if he was doing that move, as a freshman. He's much more confident now, But with Smith and Jones both out there, you can have that opportunity for Jones, and he's able to kind of survive that iffy moment and get the ball across the court. And it allows Purdue an additional element that they did not have last year.
Yeah, Lance Jones is transition terrifying.
Yeah.
Maybe for both sides at times. But yeah, he talked about that after the game a little bit, where he hit Hepburn with the behind the back crossover, and he thought he had him. And then all of a sudden Storr shows up and he didn't really get by him. So he had to escape, dribble back, and then burst forward. And like that is, you're threading together 3 different dribble moves at full speed while you got 2 guys on you. Like, let's not live there, but bravo for pulling it off.
Yeah, that was... right. You would like to never see that again, but it worked. So let's go forward.
But yeah, there's it's a little concerning that the bench is pretty much just Mason Gillis right now.
Yeah, scoring. And only 2 points from the entire bench.
Yeah, but I also think that Matt Painter's doing a better job of keeping some starters out there to score the ball.
What do you mean?
His rotations are getting a little more clever, and he's keeping like 1 or 2 guys that can focus the offense through while bringing bench units on.
Okay. I know you tweeted during the game that Purdue had a bit of a strange lineup out there.
Yeah, I think it was Heidi, Morton, Caleb first. I have to find the tweet, but yeah, it was a defensive lineup mostly, but it was also a very quick and agile lineup that could move. So I think Purdue is still, Camden Heidi's gone a little away on the just production part, but it also doesn't feel like the ball just hasn't found him, is what it feels like. Because right now he is a spot up shooter and a dunker, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels like keeping like Fletcher out there with him or Smith out there with him, you can just operate the offense away. And Mason Gillis has become more of a focal point to the offense, drawing up plays for him, getting him shots. And I think that's where bench minutes are going to get ate up by point wise. But we talked about the ceiling kind of this bench, and I don't think Purdue's getting that quite right now.
No, not right now. I mean, especially, Caleb First has all but disappeared on this basketball team. I'm not sure if that's, if he's having an issue or if Painter just can't find him minutes where he needs them.
Well, he came in and gave up a bucket like 2 minutes into his stint. So it was almost surprising to see him on the court. I mean, he came in and I was like, is that Caleb First? Yeah.
Like he's had maybe, I think, 1 game this year where he really stood out. But other than that, it's just, he's not finding his spot. Is there anything that he is not doing, to get on the court, you think? Or when he's on the court that he's not doing?
On a big picture, his offense really hasn't evolved. He hasn't added a whole bunch to it. But I think defensively, he's just not been that sharp this year. I think he's getting out of position. He looks like someone that's not getting a bunch of minutes, that's not comfortable out there. And it's kind of like defensive confidence, which is strange to see, especially in a guy like that who's been so good on that end and is kind of used to playing bit minutes. Though 5 minutes is low for him.
Right.
He started for a good portion of last year. So yeah, I just like the detail on defense just isn't there when he's out there right now. And it wasn't a great Trey Kaufman-Rin game either. The more and more I like,
he had some moments. He had a bucket.
He had 2 buckets. He was fine. It still doesn't. There have been like 10 minutes this season where it's hit the way it should hit, like the Illinois game.
Do you mean with Kaufman, Rin, and Edey on the floor at the same time?
Yeah, it just feels. I get it. When he's really active on the glass, he's good. But it takes like 120% effort to get there. I just keep circling back to like, how much better is this team going to be if they play Gillis for 35 minutes? And is that what the tournament's going to lead to? And like, it's good to have that in your bag. And I think that's fine. We don't need to see it now, but I'm guessing since from day one, he's always been part of the closing unit. That Painter knows that it's going to get to that point, and we'll all be better for it. But it's things to know. It would be nice if in the next 5 games, someone from the bench goes off, not Mason Gillis.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It would be good to just have an extra player on the bench that you can put in for some either instant offense or just be able to, facilitate something on the offensive end. But one more. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is a game where, like, if one bench guy has like an even like 5-minute, like a 7-point flurry, this game feels different.
Yeah.
Because Purdue just needed someone else to step up, and they just never really did on the offensive end.
Yeah. Yeah. So moving away from the offensive portion of the game there, at the end, with about a minute and a half left, things kind of started looking a little dicey, kind of went off the rails. Braden Smith had 2 turnovers in the last about a minute, I think minute 34. You think there's anything to be concerned about there, or was this just a one-off situation? Because we've seen Purdue struggle with the press before, and now 2 turnovers there at the end kind of kept Wisconsin in this game.
It's a little bit of one, it's a little bit of the other. I think that it's harder at the end of the game. It's a lot harder when teams press. And by the way, the officials do change the game when it's late like that in press.
Oh, yeah.
They let defenses get away with stuff. That you can talk about the Braden Smith foul and the tip ball, but like calling that foul on Gillis there, considering what defenses do against presses, call. Like whatever, it's pretty even. So like, I think part of it is those are just harder moments. And I think if there is a weakness with Smith, it's size, and that becomes even more extrapolated when you're being held or doubled or trapped. Obviously, there's some things to clean up. It would be nice if Purdue didn't catch every inbounds in the corner. Little things like that. So it is a concern just because like it's hard. I don't think it's a Purdue specific thing.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think Lance Jones does help. And then being a year older helps more. They were still like, they didn't fully collapse. Like they had 2 turnovers, and they weren't like the worst turnover. Smith's was the worst turnover. That one was so boneheaded that it's almost not concerning, because like there's no way he'll drive back out into 4 people again. Like,
I just, when I saw that, I was like, I mean, he'd gotten through. He's on the other side. I thought he was going to go for the easy bucket, get the 2 points, but then he turns out to try to waste time. And I get it. I get the impulse, because at that point you're ahead in the game. I think they were up by 5. The clock is ultimately your enemy at that point. Oh, they were up 7. Okay. The clock is ultimately your enemy at that point, because you don't think Wisconsin's going to be able to come back. The only way they can come back is if they score in a hurry. Well,
or you drive into a triple team.
Yeah, don't give them the ball like that. And man, as that happened, I was like, that was like a hands on the head moment. You're like, oh no.
Yeah, but like that is one that's going to be applicable going forward, where like, because it's one of those, you're fighting against your instinct ahead of time, because you're like, don't score the basketball, waste time. And when you trigger your entire life's, like every moment of your life, you're like, if you have a 2-on-1, you go score. So you're working against instinct. So all of a sudden, all you really have to rely on is thinking. And then all of a sudden, you're dribbling back towards half court.
Then you're overthinking.
Those people I already beat.
They're there back.
Still. They didn't leave. I thought they were going to the locker room. So it's one of those where you can expect next time, like, Brain's going to go towards the hoop.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something too. Like, that one was more egregious, so you have less to worry about going forward, because that's something you would hope that won't be repeated, because it's so outlandish. Whereas the other one against the press, that one you do worry about, but it is,
because you just saw it with Lance Jones, like Northwestern game. Like, they're inbounding it into the corner again. Yeah, but it's hard because like I think one of the things is you can't really use the full court from underneath the basket, because you can't throw the ball up because there's a basket there. The basket's very wide.
True.
And you can't throw through it. It looks clear. It looks like nothing's there.
Yeah.
But there's things there. It's glass. So I think it's not as simple as everyone says, but at the same time it is. So it's just like,
Yeah, I mean, like
simple,
the
not easy.
idea, yeah, the idea of it is simple. It's like, okay, just pass the ball not into the corner, done. Yeah, that's all you need to do. But then, there are 5 guys on the other team trying to force you to do exactly that. So
Right. And getting away with like they're not
grabbing,
grabbing when you run to the
holding,
corner. When you try to go
right?
inside, they're
Yeah.
grabbing.
Suddenly they know how to play
Suddenly
really
their
great
hands
defense at that
exist.
point. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like, all right, this is hard. This is tough. But
Yeah.
it's I think it's encouraging that Purdue was able to play that not great and win on the road against a soon-to-be divorced from the top 10 Wisconsin team.
Yes.
That's
They're currently separated. We're
rally
waiting
for
on the final paperwork. That's a callback.
It's a callback.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, to win by 6, which it should, I mean, it felt like more for most of the game because Purdue.
How good do you feel like Wisconsin is?
I don't know. I mean,
I don't like to be disrespectful.
I haven't
I
really
don't
been
mind
sold
being
on them.
disrespectful.
No,
That's
you don't.
kind of where I'm at. And like like this confirmed, like if you can't beat that Purdue team, the version they showed.
Yeah. So, and that reminds me, I wanted to ask you because you mentioned it earlier. You said, these 2 teams play at the end of the year. You
Who's
said
gonna
that
dog
Wisconsin.
walk 'em?
No, okay.
Dog
Why
walk
do you just because you
It's a
surely
bad
think they're just going to
matchup.
play a better team?
It's a bad matchup for Wisconsin. Because like the best thing they can hope for is isolations with Wall one-on-one with Edey. And he got his this time. I don't think that's happening in Mackey. First of all, maybe one of those 25 pump fakes is called for a travel. If Braden Smith is traveling because he pump fakes in the paint, I definitely saw some shuffling over there with Wall, is all I'm saying.
Okay.
I just like Chucky Hepburn's been around a long time. That's cool.
He sure has.
It's not like a point guard that dissects and breaks stuff. AJ Store, you can kind of talk him into bad stuff. Why is Connor Esigian just so damn good against Purdue? He was 0-4 from 3, but like
those shots that he hit were just outrageous. I mean, 1 second left on the shot clock and just goes up and shoots it and just perfect shot. I mean, nothing Purdue did wrong there. He just hit some tough shots.
It just goes back to Wisconsin beats teams by out executing them, by being precise for 40 minutes.
Yeah, you make them make the mistake.
Right. Guess what? Purdue kind of executes and out precises other people for 40 minutes. They're just better. So like I think it's a tough matchup.
Yeah, Wisconsin almost seems like Purdue and Wisconsin have a lot in common.
Right.
But Wisconsin doesn't have the talent that Purdue has.
Doesn't have the cojones
to go with.
Purdue is embracing the ball stock. Zach Edey wanted them all, and now you got like Fletcher Lawyer out there with the balls. You got Lance Jones with the ball. I think Braden Smith said he had the balls. That Lance Jones had the balls after the game. A lot of ball stuff.
Yeah, I did see that quote. So Purdue currently, I would say, is the villain of college basketball right now, and it's a weird situation to be in. Because everybody wants to hate on Purdue. Everybody wants to hate on Zach Edey and that he gets free throws and the refs are in the pocket and whatever. And it's not something that I, as a Purdue fan, have ever experienced. Weird. It's always been, we're the underdog. We're the likable loser.
Some have said we're plucky.
Yeah, plucky. That's so it's been a real role reversal this year, and Purdue as a team is embracing it, and it's great to see because I think they're continuing to kind of mow down the Big Ten, and they got 6 winnable games right in front of them before they finish with 2 tough ones. So yeah, I'm looking forward to how this goes.
Everyone likes a little role play to spice up their life.
Moving on. So, any final thoughts on Purdue taking down the Badgers?
No, I definitely think. I would like to see. I'm not saying. I think Purdue is good enough that Matt Painter could, if he wanted, if perhaps he would possibly under
loving this already.
Under some guys, perhaps just maybe play his bench a little more in advantageous spots where they get going.
Oh yeah,
maybe.
sure.
maybe. I don't want to say sacrifice a win, but
No.
put yourself in an uncomfortable spot because you are going to say, hey, Heidi, you're getting 20 minutes tonight. I want to see something.
Yeah.
Hey, Morton, I want you to run this offense for 5 minutes. I know we're all scared.
That
I know
worries
it
me.
scares you. It scares me. It scares everyone watching. But we're going to do it because we need to do it. Because we need to see these little points away from what we know we have. And we need to see good things happen. We need to learn.
I think in these next 6 games, I
It's
think
not
Purdue
easy.
has a chance. No,
It's not easy.
Well, because it goes back to kind of what you said about Braden Smith. Painter, for years as a coach, you do everything you can to win the game in front of you. And to take that away and put yourself in maybe a little bit of a worse situation, thinking of building toward these future games is
Real
tough
hard.
because you never want to get rid of that one game in front of you.
Can you imagine having a Braden Smith and not having him on the court?
Right. Yeah.
Awful.
Doesn't make sense to me.
Why
Doesn't
would you
make
do
sense.
it?
No.
You kind of got to
So,
do it. You kind of got to do it.
With no
Did you
game
do
until
it?
Saturday,
Just a little?
I could not.
Just a little bit?
I could not. No.
All right.
With no game until Saturday, when Purdue takes on the Hoosiers, no game to talk about today, no opponent to look forward to. So we're going to come back around midweek, talk all things Purdue and all things Hoosiers. Till then,
we're going to do it again, Rivalry week.
We're going to do
Let's
it again.
go.
Rivalry week is back. We are part of the Field of 68. So like, rate, review, subscribe, click all the buttons. We'll see you next time, folks.